Hey everyone, how you doing? Last year, I think I posted some cloud that I created in Unity, and I posted it online. And then recently, I had someone ask if I could do a tutorial for it, and I'm happy to do a tutorial for it. The inspiration, and I should say actually pretty much a direct copy of uh, a talk that I saw from I think it's from like GDC 2013, and it was posted online. It's one of the artists from that had worked on Diablo 3, I think, and he was just talking a little bit about some of the VFX they created. And this was a technique they used for creating clouds. And I thought it was, I thought it was an interesting talk. But yeah, all of the credit for this technique would be like I don't know where they discovered that from, but this is where like I'm borrowing from them, obviously. Um, and the technique, it kind of gives one of the things that I liked about it is it gives a bit of a volume effect to the clouds, but it's kind of a fake volume. I find that all of the techniques that were explained in the paper were pretty simple techniques, which gave like nice results. So I'll show you how I set it up inside of Unity. Um, and I could break this up into like a number of different tutorials, and break it up into smaller pieces. I know people like that, but what I think I'll do is I'm just going to record this big long video, and then what I'll do is I'll timestamp the important parts of it. Um, so you can see here I've opened up Unity. I have an empty project. I think by default Unity has the project panel down here, and it's possible that the hierarchy is sitting over on this side here. Um, for whatever reason, I just like to have my hierarchy on this side. It's not too important for this project. It's not that busy, but I like to have my project here and my hierarchy here. Um, and another thing is in Unity, I think by default you've got the two column layout. And I don't like these big kind of images here. This to me is kind of got an Unreal feel. Um, and I just like to see the actual name of the file. I just find that's a lot easier to look at. So if this looks a little bit different than what your Unity looks like, I'm using the dark mode in. It's nice that Unity's finally made this available in their software. So this is like 20, I think 2020 on allows you to have the dark mode for free. Um, Probably because of the competition with Unreal, I imagine. Um, I'm going to use Unity, and the other software I'll use to create some textures is GIMP. You can use Photoshop, whatever 2D software you like. I like GIMP for creating maps. I think it. I think to start with, I'll maybe just start some map. I'll start by creating some maps first, and then I'll maybe explain why I'm creating them. Or what the idea is behind them. Um, and I think I do my maps slightly different than what's explained in the video that I'll link to. I'll link to in the description from Diablo. Um, I think I've done mine a little bit differently. So one of the things is I'm going to make two textures, and in the first texture, they're both going to be RGB. So in the two textures, I'll have one texture that'll just be color data, and then the other texture, it's going to be RGB, but it won't be color data. It'll just be three different masks, basically. Um, so that way I have six different channels to pack. Um, and and so the color I'll be able to change. I'll be able to swap it in and out to change the color of the cloud. And then the mask channel will probably just stay the same, unless I want to kind of change the look of the cloud. I could have different mask channels as well. Um, so one of the first things I'll do is I will actually import. Let's see here. I did download some some cloud images. And then with these cloud images, so you can just find one online. Um, what I did with these cloud images is I tried to pick a spot in the cloud that would show the lighting that I wanted for the cloud. So I could pick like any bit of this here, and in GIMP, what I'll do is I'll use the trim tool, and I'm just going to take this section here, and I'll want it to be trimming 1:1. So I'll just go here to fixed aspect ratio, and I've got it set 1:1 here. And then as I draw this out, it'll just give me a nice kind of uh, square shape. So you can see here it's a little bit lighter up in this corner here. I can go to colors, curves, and maybe I'll pull the curves forward a bit just to kind of darken that up a tiny bit. Not sure if I like that selection that I've got. Let's go cancel, and I can go Control Z a few times. It's not actually letting me. File, revert. Okay, let's have a look. There's a different section I can grab. That's kind of interesting there. Let's grab it in here maybe. Oh, let's grab our, this is the crop tool. Yeah, so I'm going to crop from up here, and I'm going to come across like that there. Yeah, that looks interesting. Again, I can maybe play with the curves a tiny bit. So this will be the color of my cloud, the initial color of my cloud. And then I'm going to make this image, let's see, it's at 946. I could go 1024, but I found these clouds actually look fine if you go 512, and I might even go smaller in the actual in the actual particle effect. So I'm just going to scale that to 512. You guys know that in game engines you should always stay in that power of 2. And so I'm going to export this file, file, export as, and I'm going to go to where I have this project. So I've got it in Unity projects, and I think I called this cloud tutorial, and I'm just going to save it into here as a PNG. So I'm going to call this cloud, and I'll call this cloud color, and maybe light. I don't know, because I'll try a darker smoke as well, and then just .png, and I'll hit export. Default settings are fine, and you'll see now in my project that this cloud has come in here. This cloud texture is now in here. Okay, so that's the color. Now let's look at the mask. So if you have a look at the original video from Diablo, they kind of show. Let's see if I can bring this across here. They kind of show around this point here how their different masks are set up. So this is what we're going to create in the second texture here. We're going to have a uh, a shape that's kind of just going to fade the edges. We're going to have some kind of a noise, tiling noise on the second channel, and then on the third channel there's another tiling noise, but it is going to be maybe a different scale. You can see that they've scaled the UVs here. I'm actually not going to scale my UVs. I'm just going to have this all packed into the same image, and then I'll sample this 3 times. I'll actually sample this 3 different times. I have to sample it 3 different times because they're going to be moving at different speeds. This one is going to be stationary, and then these 2 are going to be scrolling. Um, so let's go back into GIMP here, and I'm going to go File, New. 512 is fine. Okay, and this is one of the things I really love about GIMP is it's quite easy to work on individual channels. I actually find it's a lot easier than Photoshop. And as a free software, I think for making VFX and that, it's a really good program. So all I do is I go to Colors and I go to Components and then Decompose. So that's kind of what that will do is it'll say how do you want to decompose it, and I just want to work on an RGB. So it says decompose to layers and hit OK. And now I've got like these three different channels that I can work on individually. Um, so for the first one again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to View and Show Grid, Image, Configure Grid. Right now I've got them grid spacing set at 512, so we can't see it. I'm going to set it to 256, and what that'll give me is a grid line directly in the center, or a mark right in the center. And View, we'll go Snap to Grid. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually draw a gradient, and this gradient's just black and white, and um, the shape is currently set to radial. So if I draw this out, it's going to, first of all, it's going to snap to the center, and then I'll bring it to one edge here. Maybe I'll bring it to that edge there. And then I'm going to go Colors, Invert. So there I have a nice kind of um, a soft kind of a mask, I guess, for the particle. Unity has a default one, but because I'm packing these channels, I kind of want to recreate it. And if I look at my reference here as well, we can see that it's kind of got a bit of a shape around the edge here. So to create that, I'm going to add another layer here, and I'm going to go Filters, Noise, and then I'm going to do I don't want a noise. I don't want a noise. I want to render noise, solid noise. And now here I'm going to just up the detail a bit. And then is the size okay? If I'm not happy with the design, I can hit seed, change the seed value. That's just going to cycle through a few different shapes for me. Another thing I like about GIMP is the noise generators. I think it's a lot, mm, mm, I can say it's got a lot more options than the Photoshop one. Um, that's my understanding of it anyways. Um, I like that one. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to set this to multiply. Let's see what grain merge looks like. What does that look like? That's kind of interesting. Um, Grain merge. Maybe I'll go with the grain merge. Let's see what the multiply looks like. The multiply. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit soft. I like that. Let's try that grain merge. Grain merge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. So if I right click and just duplicate layer, and then I'm going to put that on top. I should be able to drag it up. Can I drag this one down? Oh, you know what? There's a software I'm using that puts this little circle around here, and so I think for whatever reason, if that's on, then I can't shift layers inside of GIMP. I'm not sure why. It's kind of an odd thing. So now I can. And this one I'll change to this one maybe a multiply. See what that looks like. multiply. So if I, oh, sorry, that one I want on grain merge, and this one I want to put on a multiply. Okay, so now I've got, I've constrained the edge, and I've kind of got an interesting kind of a shape to work with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go layer new from visible, and that's just going to create this this guy here, which is visible. I'm going to bring my green channel up and my blue channel up. So I've got, like, I can still play around with this shape a bit. I'm going to leave it down here, but I'm going to leave this at the top, and that's going to be the shape that I'm going to go with. So now for my green, I'm going to make the visibility off. Let's turn the that little cursor back on again. And here I'm just going to go filter and render noise, and we would just want solid noise. And one of the things that I really like about this, and I think Photoshop's the same, but I can turn on tileable. And what that does is it just makes it a tiling pattern. I'm going to turn the detail up a bit here, maybe to there. And we'll just try some different seed values here. That one's kind of nice. I'll hit OK. So there's that's going to be my green channel. And then let's try the blue channel. So in this one, I'm going to do another one. I think the size I had last time was at 4. This time I'll try like a larger size, which would actually be a lower number. So I'm going to go to render, noise, solid noise. So the size, I'm going to actually just make it larger. And the detail, I'll still leave the detail in there. And let's just play a little bit with the, let's make it tileable. Um, and how do I know what's a good pattern? I don't really, to be honest. I think that'll be fine. Okay. So there I've got, 2 different sizes of noise, and then I've also got this kind of shape here. And what'll happen is these 3 will be combined to kind of create the illusion of kind of more information as they pass over, as we multiply them together. It'll feel kind of like this cloud is moving. So to recombine this now into an image, all we have to do is go to our colors again, and components, and compose, and then it'll ask me which layers I want to compose. So I'm going to make the red channel this one, and that's actually the one. I think it's just picked the top 3 here. So if I have a look here, that's going to be, yeah, green and blue. So hit OK. It creates this this RGB. So it's kind of an interesting looking image. And I'll go File and Export as. I can go to Recently Used. It'll bring me right to this folder here. Cloud, and I'll just call this masks, maybe cloud masks. And okay. Okay, so I have some textures now to work with. I'm not saying that these will be, if they're not going to be perfect probably right out the gate, but it's at least something to work with. And for this masks texture on the import settings, I can turn off sRGB because it says texture content is stored in gamma space. I believe that I want that off because I want these to be linear. And then I can also kind of set the scale of this. I don't really want it to be larger than 512. Format, I might give it more more information here, so I might go RGB 24, and what that's doing is it's giving each channel. I mean, maybe it's not an issue. I'll just leave it automatic for now, but we can come back to that and see what it looks like, see if it makes a difference. So I'm going to hit apply for now. And in in our um, in our hierarchy here, I'll just create a simple. So that's kind of, I'll say that the textures are done now. So that could be kind of like one tutorial is creating textures. Um, and now let's have a look at the cloud kind of particle effect. So let's go to effects and we'll just hit particle system here. What that will do is it kind of puts uh, that particle system into our scene, and then it just starts playing it. Um, if you want to get rid of that outline around the particle system, you just come up here to gizmos, and then you just turn off selection outline, and that will kind of turn that off. It's a little bit hard to kind of see what's happening with that orange line around everything. Um, One thing that you can find useful for particle systems is to go to shaded wireframe. That'll show you your actual particle size. The other big one for particles is your overdraw, um, which I'm confused as to why it's not actually showing up right now. It should be there, but maybe when we create our own shader, we'll see that coming up. Um, for the actual rendering in the scene view, I think by default you often see kind of a horizon in that. So I'm trying to remember how you shut that off. Oh, I've got that turned off here. So you might have this kind of a view where you have your skybox on. I've got that turned off on mine. So that's just right here. So I just find it's a bit easier to look at without that on. So yeah, the only thing I'm really drawing right now is a particle system. The other thing I probably want on here is always refresh. I think this is good for if we have a scrolling texture. There's some setting in here that's going to allow us to see the scrolling textures as we make them scroll. So let's just have a look at our particle system here. On the side here, we've got let's just see if we can kind of zoom in a bit here. So we've got the duration is 5 seconds. So this is how long this thing takes to reset. Looping for cloud, we're going to want looping on. We might want pre-warm on. That just means we're going to have particles not starting from zero. Lifetime, we're going to vary this a bit, maybe between two values. Starting speed, again, we'll vary this. Start size, vary that. Generally, with particle systems, the more you add variation to it, kind of the more natural it looks. So let's just start by I'm going to go to the emission, and I'm going to lower the actual emission. So I'm just going to hit 1 right now. Rate over time is 1. And I'm going to slow the speed right down as well. Start speed, I'm just going to hit 1 as well. So now we're just kind of seeing these slowly kind of come into the world. And the shape, I'm going to modify the shape so that it's not so wide at the base. I'm going to set the radius. I'm actually going to set it right now to maybe like 0.1 or something like that. So very small. So now you can see these are being emitted one at a time. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll be able to split this particle system into separate from like looking at the shader now. So let's call this like introduction to our particle system. This is going to be our cloud, but we'll come back and we'll be adjusting a lot of these settings. One thing that you can notice is that this just pops into existence and then it pops off again. With particle systems, you always want to have kind of a smooth in and a smooth out. So what we'll do actually right away is we'll go to color over lifetime. Let's click on this. And then this top bar here represents the alpha. So I'm going to set this to start at 0. I'm going to set it to end at 0. But then that's just given me 0 throughout the whole life. So I'll come back to the middle here. I'm just clicking to add one, and then I'll have it kind of fade in nicely. Maybe I'll add one here, and so that it'll be this just basically says, like, for however long it is, how smooth do you want that transition between coming in and coming out. Um, yeah, I mean, if you're watching this, I imagine you've used particles before, particle systems. So this is not new for you. So my apologies if I'm kind of, explaining stuff that you're already quite familiar with. Um, so now if we look at our renderer, we've got a material that's the default particle material. And if I'm not sure if we can look at this one, but basically all it is it's just got a map which is linked to um, it's just a single particle kind of. If we look here, let's just create a new material here. Let's go to assets and create material, and we'll call this one cloud particle. And this one, what we'll do is we'll set this from standard to, let's go to sprites, and uh, let's try default sprite. Oh, not a sprite, sorry. We want to go to particle. Particle and standard unlit. And you can see here the map, you can select this, and this is the default particle. So if I just select that default particle, and if I go to my particle system here, and if I drag this cloud particle in now, like so, okay, that doesn't look quite right. Let's have a look at our cloud particle. Oh, it's set to opaque. So let's put that to transparent. And that should look quite similar to the default particle system, or the default particle material. Click on the particle system to get it to play again. So that's basically, I think, what very similar to the default one. What we're going to do is we're going to create our own shader now, and we're going to make use of those maps that we've created. So I'm not, I've done a lot of shader writing in code. I'm not too good with the node graphs, but I think if you understand how to make it in code, I think it's not too hard to set it up in node graphs. In the future, I might try to make a tutorial using the built-in nodes. Um, and they're not too hard to move in between them. If you know one, I think you can figure out the other. So let's go to assets and let's create a. So this is kind of, I think that's the introduction to our particle system, and I'm going to timestamp this next bit for like actually setting up the shader. So we're going to create a shader, and it's just going to be an unlit shader. Because it's just a very simple, this is like the simplest shader that we can make here. Just go to unlit shader, and we're going to call this, well, we'll call it cloud particle shader, or just cloud shader, sure. And this one's called cloud particle, and maybe I'll rename it just so that it's, I'll give it the name material, or you can call it mat or something like that. Just so that it's clear that that's the material. So let's double click on this cloud shader. And the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to have a look at, there's a bunch of this fog stuff, which I generally, when I start one of these, I just kind of take a couple lines out here. So that's some fog lines there. There's one in this vertex to fragment structure, which I'm going to take out. And there's one here in the vertex program, and there's one here in the fragment program, or a couple lines in the fragment program. So I just find that that's a little bit easier to look at now. and I tend to not really use that fog effect on these particle systems. Um, so we've got our main texture in here. That's going to be our. I'm just going to call this in the quotations here. I'm going to call this my uh, cloud color, and I'm gonna spell this with the U in it. That's the Queen's English. Apologize for the Americans out there, but I was born in Canada and grew up spelling with the odd little U in there, and so yeah, if anyone was wondering, I'm Canadian. Um, that's nothing against. It's not like I have anything against the Americans at all. I don't. I absolutely don't. I think the U.S. is a wonderful country. I have lots of friends in the U.S. from the U.S. I'm not one of those Canadians that would say anything negative about the U.S. There's no animosity there at all. Very fortunate to have and all Canadians should be thankful for the U.S. How they've it's been like a big brother, I think, to Canada. Anyways, I'm getting way off track here. Um, let's go. So that's our cloud color. Now we want to bring in another texture here. So I'm going to go just copy that line, Control C, Control V, and this one is going to be our, uh, we'll call this one our mask text. And this one is going to be cloud mask, like we'll call that cloud mask. So these names in quotations, those are the ones that are going to show up in our inspector. So now if I save this, we'll see that we have both of these in our inspector. Um, and now once we've changed the properties up here, we also need to come down and change we need to change this information here, which is just telling, it's basically the backside of this here, where we've got, these are in the property block, but now we actually need them in the pass. So this one here, this main text XST, you'll see in the vertex program that this is used to multiply against our UV to give it like an offset and a scale. I don't actually, I don't think I need that, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And down here, I'm just going to change this line from O.UV to V.UV. To me, I mean, what that is if I save this now, let me just save this. If you have a look now I'll just explain this a little bit further. Let's go to our cloud particle material. And then in the shader here, I'm going to change this to custom or unlit, because we made an unlit shader. And I'm going to call this, I'm going to put it on the shader that we've just created. And you'll see that we've got the cloud color, the cloud mask. I said those would show up on our inspector. And so that thing we just got rid of, what that would be is if I adjusted these values in here, then that would actually pass. That's what is linked to that code we just got rid of. And I don't feel like I need it, so that's why I've gotten rid of it. So what we need to do is I'm going to copy this line for our second texture, and then I'm going to go sampler 2D, and I'm going to call this one, again, matching it with the top here, mask text. So I've got main text and mask text. So I've got two different textures now. What you'll find is with our, you remember we did the in our particle system, we set the alpha to slowly fade in and then slowly fade out. What we need for that is these two structures here, struct app data and struct vertex to fragment. What these do is app data is asking for what do I need to know from the geometry. So you can see we've got the geometry we've got the shape of the geometry coming in, and we've got the UVs of the geometry coming in, the first UV channel. What we need is we need a color, UV color, or vertex color. So we've got vertex position, we need vertex color. So let's go float for color, and this is just how you call it, right? This is how the you know the this is how the code is understood by the compiler. We're looking for the color. And then, so this is data that gets sent to the GPU. This is all the stuff that's going to load from the geometry. And now there's two different functions that happen in the shader. One is the vertex program, one's the fragment program. Vertex program is anything that happens per vertex. Fragment program is anything that happens per fragment. So this vertex to fragment is simply saying this app data is going to get loaded into our vertex. You can see app data here. This is getting loaded into our vertex program. And now this vertex to fragment structure, this is what's getting sent from our vertex program to our fragment program. So there's two structures and there's two different programs. The first bit of data gets loaded into our first function, and then this second structure gets loaded into our second function here. So a vertex function and a fragment function. If you've ever wondered about shaders and how they work, that's kind of just a really quick explanation of what's happening here. So we've sent it to our vertex program. We also want to now move it from our vertex to our fragment program. So this is float for color. Float 4 because we've got RGB and then alpha. I'm not sure if we're actually going to use our color data. Maybe we can set it up so it will be used. You certainly can do that. So now we've got two float 4s, and now in our vertex program, simply to pass it through to our fragment program, because we really want it in our fragment program, what we just need to do, and that's what we're doing with our UV, that's just simply passing it through. So I'm going to go o.color is equal to v.color. And that's all that's going to do. You can see that V is what's coming in and O is what's coming out. And then down in our fragment program, we've got this main text. All we have to do is go call here. So we're just going to make sure that our alpha, call dot alpha, and we're going to go times equals, which is the same as, just multiply this against our I. See, anything coming in here has just got the name I. So here, everything that's coming in is V. Everything here is named I. We can change that name if we want, but I just leave it standard, or leave it as the default here. So I dot color dot alpha. So what that's going to do is it's just going to multiply the alpha of our final output against the vertex color alpha. Now, one thing that I didn't talk about here is that this program at the moment, the way this is set up, it's set to opaque, render type opaque. We want to set this to transparent, so there's a little bit of work here. So let's just go transparent. And I'm just going to copy this, and I'm just going to come over here and go Control V. And then instead of render type, I'm going to set this from render type to Q transparent. So we're sending the render type to transparent and the Q, that's the order basically, to transparent. So those are two tags that we need in our shader. And then we also need to set a blend mode. So we're going to go blend. And the default multiply blend is just source alpha and 1 minus source alpha. That's kind of the default blend, which is a multiply. And I think in that talk from from Diablo, they talk about a blend add shader. I could do that in another tutorial if someone's interested in that. That was for their lightning effects and that kind of stuff. So, but this is just a simple multiply here. Um, so we've got that. And then the other one we want to add is, I think we want to get rid of our Z writing. We don't want to write to the depth buffer. So I think we just do Z write off for now. Soft particles is another thing that we could add to this later on. Soft particles, what it will do is it'll compare this against the depth buffer for the alpha. And it can make, instead of a hard particle, clipping through some geometry, you can have a nice soft particle. But for now, I think that's fine. I'm just going to save this for now. And let's just see what that looks like. So again, that's kind of multiplying now. And this is using, you can see it's using the vertex alpha. And this texture here has only got 3 channels. So I think what's happening here is I think the third see this third value here, or the fourth value, the alpha value, I think it's just getting copied off of the final, because again this texture's only got 3. I think that's what's happening there, because I would have expected that might have just been a solid, like if I go call dot a equal to 1, so that's just equal, not plus, equals, just go plus equals 1. That's just saying it's solid, right? Like it's just got a value of 1. Let's save that. Yeah, so that's kind of what I thought it would look like, because it's just RGB. But that's fine. That's neither here nor there. All right. So of course we've got this here. I'm going to bring in our cloud color. So that's going to be my cloud color here. We can see that we've got that listed there. And then we've got our cloud masks. So I'm going to bring that in down here. Now we've got this mask data, but we're not actually using it. So let's have a look down here. Let's sample the mask now. So again, I said I wanted to sample it 3 times because the UV will be changing. So the first one, I'm just going to make it a fixed value. So that the one above is fixed 4 because it's RGBA. This one's just going to be the R value. So I'm going to go fixed mask R is equal to text2d, and then we're going to use our what did we call it? Mask text. And then we're going to go I.UV. So we're using the same UV for this guy. And then we're going to go .R. And .R just means just pull the red channel off of that texture. So again, we just got a single value. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say color.alpha is equal to, now it's going to, we'll use the red channel, mask R. It's going to be equal to mask R times the vertex alpha. So let's save that, and then you'll see that this is going to be broken. It says invalid subscript I at line 51. So let's go here. Oh, I've got a period here instead of a comma. So I needed a comma there. Okay. So now you can see that that is using our color information, but it's using the red channel, which we created in GIMP here. You guys remember that in here in our red channel we had this shape here. So it's using that as its alpha now. So we've got that. And I think the next bit of this is let's bring in those other two channels. So I'm just going to go Control C and Control V, Control V. So this is R, this one we'll call G, and this one we'll call B. And now R, we're going to grab the green channel and the blue channel. So there's our RGB. And now these UVs, we kind of want them to be unique. So this one's kind of stationary. This single mask, it's just going to stay put. But these ones, remember, they're tiling noise, and what we want to do is actually have these tile as well, or scroll. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to my UV, and now this is just a float 2, and I can make this a float 4. So instead of just packaging 2 elements and sending them to the fragment, I'm going to package 4 elements. So if I go here, I'm going to go O.UV, so it needs 4 elements now. It's going to be v.uv dot, let's see if we do this right here, dot xy. So that's going to fill the first 2. And then what I'm going to do next is go and then y. And we want this, if you think about the coordinates, x will be running side to side, and y will be running up and down. So I'm just going to go y, y, y. And so what this is doing is it's saying it's copying this second value. So it's got the horizontal and the vertical value, and then I'm saying give me the vertical value again, and then give it to me once more. So I've got 3 different vertical values now on my UV. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go O.UV. So this is the same one that I've just filled. I'm going to say now take the Z value, which if you think about it, this is actually the Z value. It's the third one here. And then I'm going to go plus equal. So this is going to keep adding a value. And I'm going to add time dot x to it. So this is just time dot x is just a time. It's just a number that I'm adding it to it. And then I'm going to go O.UV dot xyzw. So that's the 4th element. I'm going to go plus equals time dot y. So time dot y is significantly faster than time dot x. You'll see that if we kind of isolate these. And then down here, when I'm sampling, now I have to specify. So here I'm going to sample the first value, which remains unchanged. So on these 2, I'm going to sample that first 2 values, which is the default xy. Now this one, I'm going to use dot xz, which is going to give us this plus equal time x. And then this other value is going to be dot xw. So now these ones are kind of sampling the scrolling UVs, basically. So now if I said here instead of mask.r, if we wanted to inspect our masked green, I can hit Control S here, and you'll see that if I come back, that you'll see the actual scrolling taking place here. Now that's actually running the wrong way. I think if it's smoke traveling up, I think we'll want it actually traveling up as well. So let's just come back here and let's make this minus equals. So this should actually, let's see what that looks like now. Okay, so that's moving up. And then let's go to, let's look at our blue channel now. And you'll see that this one's probably moving faster. That's the difference between X and Y. So you can see how much faster that's moving. and that might actually be a little bit too fast. Um, it remains to be seen. But let's create a value now combining some of these. So I'm just going to go fixed A. So that's going to be my fixed alpha, or maybe I'll call it alpha, just so we know for sure that that's what that stands for. Is going to equal mask R. It's going to equal mask R times mask G times mask B. And then if you look in our example, I think what they do is multiply by 2. But I'm going to multiply by 3 here because there's 3 values. And let's just see what that looks like. So I'm going to multiply by 3, and then here I'm just going to say color alpha is going to be equal to alpha times I.color.alpha. There we go. And let's see what that looks like now. Undeclared identifier mask B. Okay. So what did I, oh, I capitalized it, and it's not meant to be. It's just lowercase here. Okay, let's have a look there. So this is what that scrolling looks like. And again, I think that's moving a bit too fast. And I think I actually want, I'll put X here, and I think I want this smaller detail to be moving faster. So I'm going to say times 2. Let's try that. So I'm actually making this third one actually faster, and then I've made the fourth one significantly slower. Let's see what that looks like now. Yeah, maybe a little bit faster. Let's do times 4, and then let's do this one times 2. Now this could be a value that we send into the shader as well if we wanted to. But that looks kind of interesting. Let's have a look at their math that they showed us in the video here. So here I think he shows a little bit about the math if we look through here. They do the alpha 1 times the alpha 2 in brackets, and then times the alpha 3 times 2. So I'm not sure. I guess the brackets would come first. Let's try to see what that looks like. Let's just try this exact same math and see what that looks like. So here I'm going to go put these in brackets here. And then I'll multiply this whole thing by 2. Let's hit Control S. So that's the exact same math that they've done. And then what does that look like? I think the only thing that's really changed is if I put that back to 3 again. Is that not exactly what I had? If I get rid of those brackets, does it actually make a difference? Oh, I don't really think it does. I don't really think those brackets do anything. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's written uh, in a way that that those brackets actually make a difference, unless I'm not understanding what's meant to be happening there. Um, yeah, I believe that those brackets would not really make any difference there at all. Um, yeah, but again, I believe that's close to what they have. Um, So one thing that I can say is that if I look at their textures that they're using, um, if I look at the example given of these maps, um, there's kind of more dark areas in here, which is probably giving more variation to that overall shape. So what I could do is I could come in here and look at, say, for example, this green channel here. I go colors, curves, and let's just try adding a little bit of that darkness to it, and I'll also kind of bump up the light bits as well. Uh, okay, colors, components, compose. Okay, and then now this one, I'll just go File, Export as, Recently Used, go into our assets, and we'll go to masks. So you might find yourself kind of working back and forth between these programs to try to get something that you like. So you can see that's kind of got a bit more kind of variation now based on, you know, um, based on that being multiplied with a stronger value. Um, so that's something you can look at. I'm not sure if that's better or not. Again, this is all going to change the look of things depending on, you know, how our different masks add together. But anyways, we've got our color information in here. We've got our masks in here. And if we have a look at our particle system now, I think they were using, he said they're using 60 particles. Right now we can see that we're using, where's our particle count? We're using 5 particles. So let's try bumping up that rate over time again. Maybe we'll go up to 5 here. So that's giving us, let's see here. Let's turn off our wireframe. We'll just go to shaded again. That's giving us 25 particles. That initial speed might be a little bit, you know what? That initial speed is fine. What I'm going to do is, when you see smoke, especially if there's heat behind the smoke, it'll often be very fast initially when it comes out, and then it kind of slows down over time. So getting into this here, I think the start speed, we'll go random between 2 constants, and I'll go 5 and 10. So that's really fast to start. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to limit velocity over lifetime. And this is a really great one. What it means is you set the maximum speed that you want these to travel at. So I'm going to slow it right down to like 0.5 or something like that. And then you have a dampen effect. And you'll see what happens is the initial velocity will get kind of dampened to the value that you want it to max out at. I'm going to maybe bring this cone a little bit tighter here. So what if I set that angle to like 5 degrees? So you can see that there's a big initial kind of push on it, and then it slows down. It's a little bit extreme. So maybe start speed, I'll set that from let's try like 3 to 6. Again, with particle systems, it's always, how can I say it? Like every time I make something, it's kind of unique. Some of the ideas are the same, but they're often very different when they come out. So this cloud's probably going to look different than the cloud that I have on the, on the last one that I've done. similar, but not exactly the same. Shader will be kind of written a little bit different as well. Now, one of the things that's happening here is that if I look at each one of these shaded wireframe, that scrolling is happening at this, if I can say this, it's happening the same on each one of these particles. So it's not, let's go to see if overdraw is working now. Yeah, our overdraw is working now, so we can see our overdraw. What I wanted to say is we want to offset that scrolling on each particle so it's not the same on each particle. Another thing I want you to look at, I don't know if you're going to see it on the video here, but if you look at the edge here of this, you can kind of see in the there's like a faceting that's happening from the the compression quality of the texture. So this is where I was saying you can go into your masks and you can set this from automatic to RGB 24-bit, and that kind of, if I hit apply here, that kind of gets rid of that. It makes it smoother. So that's something you can look at as well. So again, what we want to do is kind of offset the scrolling uh, per particle. And a good way to do that is actually to, in your particle system, what you can do is you can go to your you can go here to your custom vertex streams. So I'm going to turn that on. And then here I'm going to hit plus, and I'm going to send in to my shader, I'm going to send in my lifetime, my particle lifetime. And I'll just set in the age percent. And you can see here, it'll tell you where this is currently mapped to. So this is going to come in on text chord 0.z. That's what it's going to come in on. So let's have a look here. You can see here in our, if we look at our text chord 0, we've only given it 2 values. So if we want to pick up the Z, we're going to have to give it another value here. So this is, again, this is the stuff coming in to the shader from the geometry. So Unity is going to pack a third value in here now. And if I want to collect it, what I'll do is I'll come down to my vertex program, and I'm gonna have to use it down here. So I'll just go float age is equal to v.uv.z. That's going to be that third value. So now instead of offsetting with time, I'm going to now offset with my age. So there's my age, and age is just going to be a 0. It's going to move from 0 to 1, but it's going to move because the particles are all going to be born and dying at different times. It's going to be unique per particle. So they'll all kind of have the same age at birth, but then that scrolling is going to take place. What it's going to mean is it should, let's have a look here now. I'm using my age. Let's bring that in. So if I pause this, you should notice a difference in kind of the variation per scroll, basically, of each particle. I don't know if I can say that in a way that makes sense, but hopefully that makes sense to you. Each one of those particles, instead of repeating that pattern over the size of this thing, it should be kind of unique. One thing we can also do is change the lifetime to be random between two constants. So maybe some of these particles will last less time, will be alive, and then maybe some will be a little bit longer. Let's just hit play again. One thing you can also notice is that I think there could be, at least before when I was looking at it, I was having kind of sorting issues. Um, just feel like they're moving a little bit fast, don't they? So I'm going to come to my age here, and this one I'm going to go age times zero point 0.5. So that's going to be quite slow, and then this one's just going to be age. I feel like that scrolling with the age change, it really got bumped up again. Um, yeah, that looks a lot nicer to me. It's just kind of, you kind of want it moving at a similar speed to your actual to your actual uh, to your actual sprites. Um, so let's add a little bit more variation to this. So I think I went 3 start lifetime. I'll do 4 to 6 here. So they'll live 4 to 6 seconds. Start speeds between 3 and 6, I think. Um, Start size, we can vary that a bit. Random, let's go between zero point 0.5 and 1 maybe. So some are going to be a bit smaller now. Some will be a little bit larger. Um, Maybe the time limit velocity, we'll slow that down a bit as well. 0.2, 0.3. So again, this would be if you had like steam coming out of something, I guess. It would be, and then we'll go color over lifetime. Uh, you can also get a nice effect with color over lifetime. You can also get a nice effect with size over lifetime. So you could have something start smaller and then get larger. Maybe we'll try that. So I just brought this so that it's getting, it's coming in and it's getting opaque faster, or not opaque, but it's getting to that kind of you know where we can see it a lot faster. Let's try this color. We've got the option for color, so maybe we'll start off. Maybe over time, this is going to actually get. Oh gosh, I don't know what we want to do. We can change this value anyways. Uh, Maybe it's going to go from like a nice cool color to a warm color. I think this is going to look really weird if I do this. I'm not sure that I want to do this, um, but I'll just show you that we have the ability to add color this way. Like we've got our color that we've brought in through our texture, but I can go here. I can go call dot RGB, which is our color. I can go times equals um, I dot color dot RGB, and you can see that vertex color we've hooked into it, so it's there. Um, and I'm not sure if we want to hook into it, um, but we have the option here. Uh, yeah, maybe for like a very slight variation, it might be nice. Like maybe we want to warm it up over time. So instead of going crazy orange, we could just have like a nice kind of you know, let's say just kind of warming it up a bit as it kind of comes up. Um, Maybe something like that looks nice. Well, I don't know. We've got that ability to change the color anyways. Um, Now, what if we did 60 particles like they said they were doing? So right now we're using 25. Let's go to our output here. Where are we putting these out? Emission. So let's change this to 10 now. And you can see that it kind of makes that volume a lot more, it gives it a lot more volume. Um, Again, I said we can adjust the size over lifetime. So maybe what we do is we start very small. This is kind of a curve. Maybe we start very small and then we grow over time. So let's grow it quite quickly. So it's going from small, it's getting large, and um, that looks terrible, but I think if we started this, instead of starting it at 0, we could start it at like maybe like 0.5 or something like that. And then uh, not a huge fan of this one. I'm going to leave this off, size over lifetime. Well, yeah, I'll leave it off for now. One thing that I might want to do is rotation. Uh, rotation over lifetime. So maybe we'll make these kind of swirl a bit. And then this one I'm going to go random between. So I'm going to go between negative, let's try negative 15 and 15. That kind of gives it a lot more kind of interest, I guess. It does feel like it's kind of really coming off a little bit faster, doesn't it? Let's sort of see our start speed again. Let's try between like 2 and 4. How's that? Okay. Um, again, what can we do to make this more interesting? Well, let's have a look at the let's have a look here. There's something we can do is called noise. So we can turn noise on, and what that'll do is it'll kind of offset these particles with the noise value, and we can turn on scrolling here. So here we've got a scrolling scroll speed. We set that up. What that'll do is it'll change over time. And now you can see that this is obviously it's too strong. So I'm going to separate the axis, and you can see here if I turn these on, you'll see which axis you're working on here. So this one, obviously, if I set the z-axis, let's set it up high to like 3 or something like that, you can see the z-axis is either pushing them up or pulling them down. So I don't think I want the z-axis to be affected too much. So I'm going to set that one to 0, but then the y and the x, I'm going to set those to 1. And what that'll do is it'll kind of that'll be like wind kind of changing it over time. It's going to kind of blow around kind of randomly. Uh, and maybe I'll make that a little bit less, like maybe 0.2 and 0.2. What does that do? Yeah, it just kind of gives it a little bit of a random x and y value. So I was going to say, like, if we come back here to our color, and if this was a little bit more dramatic, like I don't know if we're seeing it that well in our cloud. I don't know if we're seeing that lighting on it too well. Let's see if we can kind of let's create a copy of this layer. Oh, I think let's create a copy of this here. Duplicate layer, sure. And then we'll just play with this a bit. I'm gonna really kind of boost the contrast here. And then I'm gonna go colors, and it's kind of really saturated, so I'm gonna bring that down a bit. And then I'm gonna go file, export as, and I don't want to go color light. I'm gonna color, and I'm gonna call this one, I'll just call it cloud. Let's just go dark. And let's have a look now here at our particle material. I'm going to drag my dark across here. And now you can kind of see that lighting. Remember I said it's got that fake volumetric lighting? we can kind of see how it looks like it's lit on one side now. Um, so let's click back on here. You kind of get that fake volume through the lighting. Um, and again, that can be modified. You notice a little bit of a pop in here. One thing that helps is if you go to your particle system and you come down to there's a sorting order, sort mode. Default is none. I'm going to sort it so that the youngest is in front. So you can go by distance, oldest in front. I'm going to go youngest in front. And what that means is that every new particle coming on is going to be in front. So we've got that. And let's just, the emitter here, shape. If I click that off, then we won't be seeing that. It's just kind of annoying to look at. These cloud dark here, if I go to scale it, it's going to soften it. So if I scale this right down and hit apply, oh, it almost makes no difference at all. Well, let's see if I do it with the mask here. Let's see if I scale that down, 128. Almost no difference again. So these can be quite small, I think, and still work. Um, if I look at our color over time, that blue in the start here, what if I was to make that like quite dark? That's kind of interesting. Um, so that's multiplying it against something quite dark. Um, I feel like in my mask, I feel like that detail's a little bit too fine. That detail that I've got in there. I'm going to lighten that up again. And get some of that blue out of it. Um, so again, let's have a look at the we've dampening. Speed is 0.3. We're dampening. Where's our start speed again? Start speed. I'm going to slow it down even more. 1 and 3. 1 and 2. Yeah, I think that's better. I think that start speed was still too fantastic. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to what was I thinking that I could improve it with? Oh, just coming here to our mask again, and this second mask that we created. Sorry, where's our image with all of our masks? I'm going to recreate this one again. I'm going to go filters, and I'm going to go to generic and sorry, render noise, solid noise. I'm going to bring this scale right down, similar to what the other one was, around 1. Bring the details up a bit. And let's do a different seed here. What would that other layer look like? We'll make it tileable. And we'll hit OK. Maybe we'll play with those curves a bit. Colors, curves. Just darken up this dark areas. Lighten up the lights. Okay, and we'll do that with our blue layer as well. Colors, curves, darken up the darks, lighten up the lights. Okay. Let's merge this again into a single image. And colors. Let's see if I can, yeah, we'll see what this looks like. Colors, components, compose, RGB, file, export as assets, cloud masks. Okay. So that's kind of, I think having less detail there actually makes that look a little bit better. Now, where am I actually looking at this? Yeah, something like that. Um, and again, I've made this quite small, so let me bring the size of this back up to 512. And we'll do that with our cloud dark as well. 512. Hit apply. Yeah, that's given us a little bit more. I think leaving it at 512 is probably what we want to do. Again, if I just set this to a single particle rate over time, we can kind of get an individual look at these and see what they're doing. Each one of these little puffs, we can kind of see what's happening here. And then we can set that rate up. So there's 5. Again, that's only 20. That's only 25 particles. So it's kind of interesting. And yeah, I think it's an interesting. I think it's a nice way to make these to make cloud effects, and it's pretty easy to modify. And you can see that like it's pretty like it can you know, it can look volumetric, and it can the nice thing about it is it's not a lot of particles. It's pretty you know, 20, 25, 26 particles here. You can set the max particles you want to use, so I can set that to 30, and it will, you know, it won't go over 30. But the best thing here is just to look at this preview, and you can see how many particles are being used. Um, so yeah, that's my tutorial. Um, and you know, that's the method I'm using to kind of emulate that effect from Diablo. And I'm happy with how this came out. I think every time I do it, it kind of, you know, it gets a little bit better. So yeah, thanks for asking for the tutorial. Again, anything that I do and post, you can ask me. Um, I can't say that I always have time to do tutorials. I happen to have a little bit of time today, so yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, and I'm not sure how long this ended up being. Let's have a look here. Where's our OBS? Um, yeah, it's quite long. I think my tutorials are always quite long, but hopefully there's something of value in there that you can find. Maybe just scrubbing through it. Um, so let's leave it there. All right, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.